I want to share with you guys a couple rules of garnish. Garnish theory, okay? There are 5 rules of garnish, and this is what you can write them down or not, but this is what I recommend for you when you're thinking about garnishes for your cocktail. First rule is that it should serve a function. Your garnish should serve a function. You don't just throw a garnish into a drink because it looks pretty. It must have a reason for being in there. Now that reason can be something as simple as mint. That cocktail I made the other day, that mint does look pretty, but there's also mint in the cocktail. I spank it and I release all those aromatics, and now I'm smelling that mint. So in that case, it's the olfactory senses. It serves the purpose of releasing those oils and allowing you to smell the mint. In the case of a lime wedge, I put it in there and I squeeze it right in over the top, and I can add an extra 1/4 ounce of acidity to the cocktail. So if I've got an acidic palate, make a nice cocktail, nice and balanced in the flavor zone. But we want to get that great tasting cocktail. And if you have a more acidic palate, especially if you're a smoker or something like that, you squeeze that lime in there, brings it right into balance for you. If I have a apple cider and cinnamon cocktail with tequila and lemon juice, that's a delicious cocktail. And I put a big cinnamon stick as a garnish, I can use it as a stir stick and stir it around. And also it smells good. But, so number 1 is that it should serve a function. Number 2 rule is that it should be relevant to the other ingredients in the cocktail. It makes no sense at all to make a neon green apple martini with a cancer-causing red cherry. Apples and cherries, I don't get the connection there. It makes no sense to make a lemon drop with an orange wheel and a cherry or a lime wedge. There's no connection there. So it should be relevant to the other ingredients in the cocktail. It doesn't mean it has to be the same, but it should be relevant. What else? Lemon drop should get a lemon wedge. And it's got their sugar in there, so a sugar rim. That's fine. What is the proper garnish on a Cosmopolitan?
Lime.
So,
Orange. My bad.
No, it's all good. Here's the thing. I'm okay if you put a lime on your Cosmo because there's lime juice in it. I'm okay if you put a lemon on your Cosmo because it has lemon vodka. I'm okay, but the original Cosmo had an orange twist over the top, a flamed orange twist, and that's because it has Cointreau in there. So we have orange liqueur, lemon vodka, and fresh lime juice. That's a little bit of everything. All right, so rule number 1 is that it's functional. Rule number 2, that it's relevant. Rule number 3 to garnish is that it must be beautiful. Now you think, well, a garnish should be beautiful. Of course, it's a garnish, but I always put that number 3 because it's really important. It's not the most important thing. It should be relevant and functional. But it should be beautiful. If you have some beautiful mint, and I'm putting that as a garnish, and I say, oh, that's gorgeous. And then I have another one, I say, oh, yeah, that's outstanding. And then I'm running low, and by the end of the day, all I've got is something like this. And I'm going, okay, the guy who gets this cocktail is like, yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, that's delicious. And I give him this guy, the guy's like, what did I do wrong? You know? So if I got janky mint, or if it's just not a nasty looking garnish, sometimes the limes are busted and old, or sometimes the strawberries are kind of wilted. I'd rather have no garnish than put on a garnish that didn't look beautiful and inviting. Because part of a great cocktail, part of it is the overall presentation. When you set it in front of the guest, they take a snapshot in their mind. And by the way, that's a real Instagrammable moment. They take that and they shoot it out to everybody. And if the straw is cockeyed and the garnish is at 6 o'clock and blah, 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 they might rearrange it and take a photo. But if you set it down to them picture perfect, they're much more inclined to pull out their camera, take a snap, put it out there and get some more butts in the seats. That's money, money, money. And it just it looks, we taste with our eyes, right? We see something that looks delicious and go, oh man, that looks awesome. So you sit down that perfect cocktail in front of him, and 3 more people are like, what is that? I want one of those. That looks awesome. So we definitely want to consider the garnish is really important. and don't compromise, and don't, be the bacon. Make them the best garnish you can. All right, rule number 4, we talked about a little bit yesterday. The garnish should be size proportionate to the glass that you're using. If I'm using this wide V-shaped martini glass and I get this little sliver of a lime, it's going to look ridiculous. Do I have any fresh limes or lemons right here? So it should be size proportionate. It makes no sense to have a skinny highball with a big orange wheel that's bigger than the friggin' glass hanging off the side of it. It just looks ridiculous. And conversely, a little skinny, thin sliver off of a V shape is redonkulous. It should be proportionate to the glass. It should make sense. And the last rule is that it should be consistent from one cocktail to the next, to the next, to the next. So that if somebody orders the cocktail early in the evening and they order 2 more throughout the evening, all 3 of those cocktails should look virtually identical unless you've run out of a garnish. But if you've set yourself up with enough success, you should do it. More importantly, if I make 5 cocktails at the same time for 5 different people in the same group, they should look identical so that one person isn't like, how come they all get beautiful cocktails and mine looks janky, right? Looks like so consistency, try to make them all look great. And that means when you're cutting lemons and lime wedges, it's about quality, not quantity. You're not just like hacking away in order to get enough to get through the shift, but rather you take an extra second to make sure that they're properly cut so they all look identical. And so throughout the course of the shift, anytime you grab a lime wedge or a lemon wedge or any garnish, they all look beautiful and presentable. If you guys want to swing over here a little bit, I'd just like you to see what I'm doing here. We have any matches, by the way?
Matches?
Yeah.
No. We have torches.
Anybody have a lighter that's not a torch? I can use a torch, but I really don't like to. Not for that. Thank you. All right. A lighter will work. Thank you. Thank you very kindly. I'll get it back to you. I want to show you guys how to flame an orange peel. I'm sure you guys do that regularly, but I want to make sure you know a little trick that not everybody knows, and maybe nobody ever articulated it to you. It'll make a huge difference in how you flame your orange peels. First of all, when you're flaming an orange peel, you want to cut off the size of about a US $0.50, but don't cut in so deep that you're cutting into the flesh. If you cut into the fruit and the fruit cells are there, when you go to squeeze it, that juice tends to run down the side and it loses the effect. But inside that skin, there's lots of oils. Under these lights, you might be able to see it. When I go 1, 2, 3, squeeze, you see all those oils burst out? Did you guys see that? You saw them. Come on around, guys. So the idea behind that is we're going to squeeze that firmly in one motion over an open flame. And those oils will ignite and then settle on top of the cocktail. So here I have 2 glasses of water. And I'm going to show you the right way and the wrong way to flame an orange peel. The right way is to take a nice little lighter, pick it up very gently between my finger and thumb. The important thing is not to prematurely squeeze it. So I'm not squeezing this at all. In fact, I'm barely holding it like parchment paper. And when I squeeze it, I'm going to squeeze it in one fast motion. So the idea is to hold a flame about 3 inches above the surface of the liquid. You can do it from the side, but then when you do that, you spray the side of the glass, and it gets sticky and tacky, and that's not pleasant to the guests. So instead, I do it over the top, but I have to do it at least 3 inches above the surface of the drink. I hold it like that, and I can rub the cells over there just to warm up the outside of it, but not too much. And then I'm going to hold it and do it about 3 inches above that and firmly squeeze in one motion. I'm going to lock my elbow here, lock my elbow here. And the first time you do it, you're so worried about burning yourself, bartenders tend to squeeze really slowly, and that doesn't work because the oils just trickle out. Or they squeeze fast and go, whew, and they whip their hands away because they're worried about a big flash and getting burned. I've never ever gotten burned doing this, except when I was using a match and I was talking too long and it burned down and burned my finger. So the rule is 3 and 3. 3 inches above and then 1, 2, 3. Okay? And this particular orange peel doesn't have a whole lot of oils in it. See if I can get another one in here, get some more oils out of this one. Okay? Well, you can see it. Sometimes it's a huge flash. These are juice oranges, and what you really want is those navel thick skin oranges because there's a lot of oils in them, but that's fine. Now, if you pass that around, go ahead and stick your nose in there and you'll see it smells like orange water. You smell those orange oils on top. They're lovely, okay? Yummy, right? And that greatly increases the aromatics, and aromatics are extremely important to a cocktail. If nobody ever told you this, most people, if you blindfold them and they pinch their nose, most people cannot tell the difference between biting into an apple or an onion. That's how profound and powerful your sense of smell is, how it's connected to flavor, to taste. Because the texture of an apple and an onion are very similar. And so if you bite into an apple and an onion and you can't smell, you're like, pretty much the same thing. Just FYI. Y'all smell that?
Smells like oranges.
Smells like oranges. Now I'm going to show you the wrong way to do it. If you do it, the flame is too close to the surface of the drink, you will scorch the cocktail. And I'll show you what I mean. Just go right over the top, like that. See if I can do another one there. Oh, I see a little scorch on there. Okay, that's good. Okay, that's perfect. So, if you look at the top, you'll see a little black smudge. More importantly, this smells like burnt rubber. It has completely ruined that cocktail. No matter how good it tastes, it smells disgusting, right? Yeah. So pronounced. It's not like subtle. It's like in your face. It's like yuck. You can see it, you can smell it. You get a little black carbon smudge across the top, and then you smell it, and it smells like burnt rubber. And that cocktail's now ruined because no matter how good it tastes, it smells terrible, and who wants to drink something that smells terrible? See? So when you're flaming your orange peels, and I wish I had better peels. You know what? I wonder if these lemon peels have more oils in them. Let's try lemon. Yeah, this one.
Always do.
They usually do. I bet you this is going to be beautiful. So, if this is my glass, look at this. There you go. That's a nice. And now, it smells lemony. Yummy. All right. Thank you, my dear.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about lime wedges. So whenever we're going to the kitchen to pick limes, we should generally be getting the pick of the very freshest, the best looking citrus, the best lemons, the best limes, and take a moment to pick out the good stuff. And you sit there and say, well, what about the chef? Is he going to complain? Well, he might at first glance, but all you need to do is politely, he's the commander, whatever he says goes, period. We don't argue with the chef. But the logic behind it, if you explain it to him politely, most chefs are on board with it. And you sit there and say, well, the thing is, we need the good looking fruit at the bar because we're using it for garnish and purchasing it on the glass. Whereas in the kitchen, you guys are going to macerate it and grind it up and squeeze it down. Guests are never going to see that fruit before it comes out in the dining room. So we need the good looking stuff. And most chefs are like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, you guys get the good looking stuff. So pick out the best good looking fruit for the bar. Now, this one's kind of yellow and this one's kind of busted. I don't know what's going on. This one's kind of old, and so none of these are perfect. This is probably the best one here in the lot, but that's fine. I'm going to take my knife, grab it by the bolster like we talked about yesterday. I'm going to do the claw, and I'm going to cut off just the nib. The nib is that little point on either side. Cutting in just the nib, but not so deep that I'm exposing the flesh of the fruit. Then all I have to do is cut it right down the center, right through the other nib, and then I cut, and it takes a little bit of practice. It's not really hard, but for some reason, people have difficulty the first time you do it. I'm cutting a straight angled cut right to the center of the nib there on both sides. Because if I cut it to the center there and I have this angle or this angle, I'm going to end up with two very wonky looking things. So instead, I'm cutting straight to the center there, turn it around, cut straight to the center there, and then when I fan it out, I have three almost identical looking wedges. Turn it around, and now I have six almost identical looking wedges. And they all look sharp, they all look nice. And then as we talked about yesterday, instead of cutting it right down the middle, we're going to cut it at a straight cut, a straight, not a curved cut, but a straight cut from 1/3 right to the center. And we call that the turtle back. And we put that on our glassware. Where's my martini glasses? And you put that on there on the side of the glass, and it's perched there. It looks pretty. As opposed to this. On the V-shaped martini glass, see now that's inside the drink as opposed to perched on the outside of the glass. We have a rocks glass?
Yes, sir. Second one on the right.
Yep. Jeez.
My opinion. I just messed with it.
Okay. On a rocks glass, it looks better because that looks like nice and perched there as opposed to that. They both look nice. I just thought it's a preference thing. I like the turtleback, and I don't so often say it's a preference. I think the turtleback is a little more unique. You don't see it as often, and I think people kind of respond to it viscerally. The one garnish that I do not like is this one. This garnish meets our third criteria of garnish. What's our third criteria?
Actually, you only give one or two.
It has to be beautiful.
No, you did it all fine.
Oh, I was in the closet.
Beautiful.
It's okay.
My bad, I came out of the closet.
It looks beautiful. I don't know, this one doesn't look so beautiful because it's kind of a janky lemon. Yeah, there you go, there you go. Now, that looks nice enough. It looks beautiful. So it meets my third criteria of garnish. Does it meet my first criteria?
No.
I can't really squeeze it. If I try to squeeze it and get some lime juice out of there, the best I can hope for is to get a couple drops out of there and have really sticky, wet hands. That's the best I can hope for. And that one's pretty juicy, so I got some lime juice out of there. Sometimes you don't get very much, and you still end up with wet, sticky hands. This one, on the other hand, if I want some extra lime juice, I just pick up the wedge there. I can squeeze it right into the drink, get a couple drops out of there, maybe up to a 1/4 ounce, throw it in the drink, and my hands aren't all sticky and wet. So we got to think about functionality, okay? Spiral lemon twists. You guys want to make a spiral lemon twist?
Yes.
All right. To make a spiral lemon twist, you take your knife, grab by the holster, you do your grip. You're going to cut in deep so that you expose the flesh on both sides. Okay? Then I'm going to take a spoon. Oh boy. And what I'm going to use is I'm going to take this spoon and I'm going to use it like a round knife. I'm going to use that like the edge of a knife. I'm going to hoist that right up under the flesh there. And I'm just going to cut in a circular motion around the inside of the flesh. And just, okay, and eventually once you got it all the way around once or twice, then it moves really easy. So then I turn it around and I do the same thing. I get right under there. It's a curved knife. And I get right under there and I conform to the curve of the flesh of the fruit. Get all the way around and pretty soon that goes around pretty easy. Then I'm going to look on the skin to see if there's any blemishes. There's a blemish right there. And so I say that's a blemish. I want that to be at the very top or the bottom of my twist. So then I cut right there. Oops, sorry. And I'm just going to cut straight down there. And then this I can squeeze, I can save for juicing. There's no reason we have to throw that away. Give it to the chef or just squeeze it through our squeezer and get some fresh lemon juice. In the meantime, I have this left over. Now, if I lay this out flat right now and squeeze down, it's going to split or crack along the sides. So what I have to do is take my knife, I'm going to hold it here, and I'm going to use the very tip of the knife to just cut off that white pith on one side of the lemon. And when I'm done, I have a nice little strip of lemon pith. I then turn it around and I do the same thing, oops, the same thing on the other side. And what that does is it allows so that when I lay it out flat with my fingers, it won't split on the sides. Now I can lay this down with my fingers and rub it along here, and it doesn't crack or split on the sides. And then I'm going to take one more cut, and I'm just going to, it's kind of like laying it out flat. It requires a little bit of a touch, a feel, but once you've done it once or twice, the idea is not to cut so deep that you accidentally cut through to the other side, through the skin. We don't want to do that. But we do want to cut off all that extra white pith, because that pith is bitter, and it doesn't look particularly nice either. So now I've got a nice pith, throw that away, and now I've got a nice full lemon twist. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to slowly and tightly roll it up, and by doing that, am I squeezing out some of the oils? Definitely yes, but not all of them. And I'm going to squeeze that and roll it into a nice tight little spiral. Put my thumb up against one edge so it's nice and smooth there. And then I'm going to take, well, I'll take one of these. And I'm going to skewer it right through that point, not in the middle. If you do it in the middle, you're missing out on an extra spiral that you might need later on. So I do it right at the edge and just push it right through. It's a tough one. Just worried about I don't want to puncture my skin there. Okay, there you go. And you can do 3 or 4 of these before a shift, and I get about 3 or 4 of them out of a single twist. So now, what I want to do now is put that in ice cold water and let it set up. And I could cut that into spirals right now, but it'll uncurl on you. If you have it nice and tight and cold, it will, give that a couple minutes, we'll cut a spiral twist on that, and you'll see how that makes a beautiful spiral twist in our glass. And when we go to cut that, you'll cut the twist, you'll take both garnish tongs, you grab one end, grab the other end, and the idea is you hold it over the glass and twist and pull, but not so hard that it breaks in half. You're just trying to squeeze some of the oils so they get into the drink, and you have that lemon oils, and then you hang it perch it over the edge of the glass, and you have this beautiful spiral lemon twist in the glass. Okay? Any questions? Okay. You guys are kind of quiet. I got to tell you, most people are like, oh, okay, I got it. You guys are like, okay, Brian, we're fine. Let's move on. So that's fine. I was teaching this class, the first time I did this class, I was doing it to a group on the world ship, and all of the employees were all Filipino. And in Filipino culture, when you're in a classroom environment, your job is to sit down and listen and learn. And you're not supposed to ask questions, and you're not supposed to engage, because if you're not understanding the lesson, it's because you're failing as a student, not because because the teacher is the master in that culture. So if you're not understanding, you got to do some extra studying or ask around, but you're not supposed to do it in class. So you're supposed to sit there and laugh. And I was sitting there doing my best to try to engage this group of Filipino students, and I was sitting there, and no one's sitting there. I was sitting there nodding politely and being polite, and I throw out my best jokes, and they'd be going, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm bombing here. Are they killing them? Are they hearing me? And then later on, I met with the general manager. He goes, I don't know what you did, man, but the whole class, everybody's buzzing about, what an incredible class, how much we learned, and how incredible. I was going, could have fooled me. And then he told me about the culture. I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then the next day, we started tasting cocktails, and they loosened up, and then they were party animals. But it took a day to loosen up. Anyway, I like questions, so if you have any, feel free to ask. All right. That's Garnish Theory. Let's make some more cocktails, and then you guys start making cocktails.
Did you ever say the 5th rule?
Yes, I did. The 5th rule is that it should be consistent from one cocktail to the next. So the 4th rule is size proportionate to the glass, and the 5th rule is that it is consistent. The cocktail garnish should look consistent from one cocktail to the next, not only within one order, but throughout the entire shift. In fact, ideally, throughout the entire life of that cocktail on the cocktail list, from every bartender, every time, same glass, same garnish, same presentation. That's the goal, right? All right. So I guess we give up on Cointreau. Cointreu's not happening. Boo.
Correct. If it was in there, I would have found it.
I believe you. I believe you. So I don't know what happened. I could have sworn we had some yesterday.